It's Rounded Rod from YouTube.
And Big Rich, you all know us from Ohio Fish Rescue. And we're here, and we watch Jack and Dan all the time. You need to check that channel out. We got little Jack right here. And you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna push him in!
Hey everybody, it's Jack and Dan, and we're finally getting to work on this big old tank.
Yeah, this is a big old tank we got nearly a year ago. It's been sitting in the garage, hasn't it, buddy?
Yeah, just about.
And it is a really old tank. We were over there at the Ohio Fish Rescue helping out last summer, and somebody brought this in. It had a busted frame. It was really a mess. The stand was all busted up, infested with animals. And Big Rich said, you know what, you guys just take it. I don't even want to deal with it. Luckily, we found a frame. So here's the stand, guys. We're going to start off with this. This was kind of infested with, we believe, mice. It had a lot of hair and fur underneath it here. Also, we think it might have had some urine on it. So we cleaned it really good. We're going to actually disassemble it. We're going to take off the doors. We're going to take off the handles. We are actually going to, Jack is going to be taking it apart, and you're going to be painting the inside. And the reason we're painting the inside is because when animals urinate on something, the only really way to get rid of that smell is to seal it, right? So even though we don't really have to paint the inside, we got some cheap paint, and we're just going to paint the inside, seal it all up after we clean it a little bit more because it's been sitting out here in the garage. We're going to just use some we got some CLR sitting around. We're going to use some CLR on these guys. We think we're going to be able to salvage these handles. And this is the only one that looks kind of rusty, but we're going to soak those guys in CLR, see if we can bring them around back to life. We're going to paint the inside of the doors and the bottom of the stand. You can see this stand was pretty awful, but it's structurally pretty good. We might throw a couple more nails or screws in it just to make sure it's a little stronger. But Jack's got the old works. He's going to disassemble this. We're going to lay everything out. And as far as this tank goes, this is the frame issue. Problem with these frames, now this is called a 125. Basically what it's like is a 75 on top of a 7, well, like 1.5 75 gallons. It has the same dimensions as 75 gallons, but taller. When we did the dimensions on this, however, we figured it out to be about 116 gallons.
Yes.
This is an old tank. It's pretty rare. You don't see things like this very much. You can tell it's old because it's so incredibly thick. Look how thick that is. Nice old thick tank. Now we think, from the looks of this, that it might have already been resealed because it looks a little sloppy on the bottom. We're not sure though. They did have salt water in here. We're definitely gonna have to clean it, but we can't even really fill it to see if it needs resealed until we fix this, because these tall tanks will kind of bow out if you fill them with water. And you can see where this was broken. It was broken really bad. And honestly, this is so old, it's so brittle, it just like breaks apart. So a lot of manufacturers are way behind and they're not able to give you frames. You can see this was painted and it's breaking apart. I mean, it's really old. But the glass is in pretty good shape if we just clean it up, and it's also very thick and a really nice size tank. And we're thinking about making a big angelfish tank out of this because angelfish were my first fish ever, weren't they?
Yes.
We haven't had angelfish in a long time. So we talked about this before. Really great company. They make custom made frames like this. So we're going to unbox this. We're going to see what it's like. We're going to see if it fits. They do have, we will put a link to a description. Obviously, we'll put a link in the description to them. They have very specific instructions on their website, don't they?
Yep.
And we had to measure this over and over a couple times to make sure we were measuring it right. They have very good instructions. You measure it, you tell them, and honestly, they sent this in like a week. It's just been sitting in the garage because we haven't had time to do this. So we never got a chance to unbox it. We're going to open this up. We're going to take a look at these. But before we do that, we got to get this frame off. So while Jack's working on that, I'm going to be working on this. Now, guys, when you reseal a tank, you have to make sure you do 100% silicone. However, we didn't really have to do that for this because this is the frame of the tank, and the water's not really going to be touching this, especially the bottom part. The top part, the water might come up into this lip, but ultimately, probably just to be on the safe side, we got this. It was on sale on a clearance rack. It did say 100% silicone. We're not super concerned about it. If we have to reseal it, we might be a little bit more concerned, and we may look for something that is a little bit maybe sold by an aquarium store or something of that nature. Now, this is a very big, very heavy old tank. Luckily, we jump rope in our garage, especially during the pandemic. We kind of turned the garage into a gym, didn't we, kiddo? Mm-hmm. We have these big, huge rubber mats. We got them on clearance. They're normally like $100. We got them for $20. It's like, 3/4 inch thick rubber. So we're going to be working on there. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to do the bottom of this tank first. So we're just going to tilt this. Oh, you can hear that? That's how brittle the frame is. It's so old. But the nice part is, glass doesn't really get old. You can clean it up. So we're just going to kind of tilt this guy over here. And I'm going to real gently set it down so that I can work on the top. Now you can see how this bar is on the bottom. The top should have an exactly similar bar, but it was so brittle that it broke. And that's why we have to reframe this. And since we're reframing the top, we're just going to reframe the bottom so that they match and look nice. We got these frames from Over the Edge for $20 a piece and $20 to ship, so it was only $60. A tank and a stand like this that somebody basically was throwing away can be rehabbed, for $60 and some paint and some cleaning. I mean, that's amazing. This would probably cost $1,000 for a tank like this new, or close to it, right?
Yeah.
So for $60 and a little silicone and some paint and a little bit of elbow grease, we're going to hopefully be able to make this look brand new. Always nice to have a little works drill there.
That actually worked a lot better than I thought it would.
Knocking these guys out. All right, guys, so you want to obviously use a piece of wood. You can put the piece of wood against this from the bottom and start hammering away. Ultimately, this should lift off. This is being incredibly stubborn. This is really on here good. It could be that these are new frames. I don't think that they are. They look like the original kind of like walnut frame there. But we're going to maybe take a hacksaw to this thing and just start cutting it open, because you don't want to start getting too aggressive with like a chisel or something like that, because you could break the glass. All right, that hacksaw cut right through here in like 2 seconds. You can see here that there's a big space. We do talk about this space, how we usually cut this out a lot of times. A lot of people think the glass goes into this. It does not. You can actually cut that out to put cords and lights underneath your tank and things like that. So now that I've gotten that through, I'm just going to start pulling these away a little bit at a time. There you go. And obviously, probably should have on gloves. I'm going to probably get some gloves because this is so old. Look at that, how jagged some of those edges are.
Yeah, I've cut myself and it's not fun.
Yeah. So anyway, we're just going to keep cutting down, pulling these edges off like this. And again, you just want to go easy. You don't want to really pry against the glass. You just want to pull. Like, I wouldn't pry this against the glass to get it off because that could break it. Basically, you're just going to pull straight, and you can see it's coming off fairly easy. All right, Jack's doing a real good vacuuming on all this. He got all the pieces and parts off. I just keep moving along here. Not bad. It's coming off in pieces. Middle piece came right off. See, that's tempered glass on the bottom there. So I'm basically just making my cuts, pulling it off as I go along. It's a really nice glass underneath here. All right, so Jack's kind of painting the inside of these doors a little bit. We have some, like I said, some old black paint. We're just putting it on basically to seal in any kind of odors and make them a little cleaner. Hopefully it helps. They do look pretty good. Just a light little coat. We're outside. We got the back door of the garage open. Got the front door open. Little breezy day, so they should dry really fast. All right, they had some old screws here, probably holding a pump or a strip or something. We're taking those out though. We put about 30 nails in with the nail gun all around here, basically just reinforcing it. Definitely looks good now. We're gonna flip this over. We're gonna paint the back. We're gonna paint the bottom, just make sure everything's cool. Paint the inside. Just make sure this is all kosher. Got this whole bottom off. You could tell it just broke into like these brittle little pieces. These are quite sharp. Definitely be careful if you're doing this, especially something old like this. We're also, we're gonna just kind of keep our cars outside for a couple weeks while we're working on this project. Luckily it's summer, and you know, we'll make sure we blow this garage out real good so none of these things get in our tires or anything like that. But yeah, that's what it looks like. I mean, this is really old school. Look how thick this is. You just don't see glass like this thick anymore in new tanks. You can see in here, there was obviously mice. See how there's like fur and stuff? So we're sucking all that out. We're just gonna seal it with paint. Paint the whole bottom of this with just like black paint. Nice job, buddy. So we're painting that whole bottom. Never gonna see it, but we're just gonna try to get a little more paint up in here, all these cracks and crevices, and then we're gonna flip this guy over and get the inside and the back and everything done. All right, so if you've never seen the bottom of a tank with the frame off of it, get a real close up from the side here, kiddo. This tempered glass on the bottom is only about 1/3 to 1/4 as thick as the rest of the tank, but it is tempered. And so let me just see this real quick. I'll just show you guys. The rest, the tempered piece is the base, and the rest of these pieces sit on top of the tempered piece. So this piece of tempered glass basically holds the weight of all the other sides. A lot of people don't know that's how an aquarium works. At the end of the day, this does not seal the glass in any way. It just holds the frame on and fills in the gap so the frame is sitting on there nice and tight. We're not digging into the, if you look here, we're not gonna start digging into underneath where this bottom piece is. We're just kind of gonna go along here. There is a huge amount of silicone in between the bottom and this side, and also more inside here. So that is what is stopping you from having a leak. Not this out here, it had nothing to do with it. So we're kind of waiting for some of that paint to dry before we can flip that over. Jack's taking the silicone off this bottom. I'll give you a little history, a little background on this tank. Apparently what had happened is there was a gentleman that died, and his wife had a bunch of stuff, and she called up Big Rich over at Hot Fish Rescue, saw him on the internet, said, hey, I don't know what to do with this stuff. He went over there. It had been sitting for a long time. This tank, as you can see, was evaporated. You can see the evaporation marks on here. We're gonna scrub that. We're gonna kind of show you how to do it. You can actually use like steel wool. That'll take that off pretty good. If push comes to shove, you can use CLR. You just have to really, really, really rinse it good. I have done that on occasions in the past. But basically, Big Rich was like, look, I can't deal with this. This is a huge project. It's not even worth our time. And usually they just put things like this on Facebook Marketplace, and he goes, nobody's even gonna want this with this broken frame, and it's such a mess. He's like, this is a great kind of project for you and Jack to work on. He's looking forward to see what we end up doing with this. He's kind of been bugging us because it took over a year to get to. We've just been so busy. But we are gonna make this into a smashing, dashing tank. This is gonna be a series of videos. We're gonna get as much done as we can today, and then ultimately it may be 3 or 4 videos before the whole entire project is done. Obviously, we're gonna jack this up with some awesome lights and everything, aren't we?
Yes.
We're gonna make it pretty awesome. I'm actually really looking forward to this. My first fish ever, when I was about 4 years old, was an angelfish named Gabriel, Angel Gabriel. And he was in a little 10-gallon, and then I upped him to a 20-gallon in a dining room of our house, growing up with Jack's grandparents over there. And that just started me into the hobby. And next thing I knew, I had 5 tanks and 10 tanks and 20 tanks, all throughout my life. And when we moved here, we had to kind of start over a lot. About 9 years ago, we are starting to build up more of a fish house again, more tanks and more rooms. It's a wonderful hobby. We love it, and we love giving our fish in really unique homes. So it's gonna be kind of cool. Hopefully, Big Rich can reach out to the lady. He does stay in contact with all of these people. Hopefully he can reach out to the young lady that gave us this, that didn't know what to do with it, that was her husband's, and she's gonna be able to see this. So we hope that you can, if you're out there, that you can see this and the beautiful aquarium we're gonna make out of your husband's old tanks that were left basically to be trashed. This is what makes me think that this tank may have been resealed already, just because there's so much on the bottom. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, because there's normally gravel covering this up. They just might not have thought to, trim it or tape it. The sides do look really neat though, but I am thinking he may have resealed this sometime And if not, then, you know, that's okay if the manufacturer did, but just look at all of that. That's a ton of silicone between the water and the outside of the tank there, because that silicone flows right in between these two. So you're looking at about 1.5 inches of just pure silicone there. So, I mean, certain areas of this, I hopefully this doesn't leak. We're gonna see here. All right, time to open this up. This has a lot of tape on it. We're gonna start cutting this apart, and then we'll kind of show you what these look like when we get them open here. All right, we really had to, I got to hand it to these guys. These guys really did a great job packaging, yeah. They do an amazing job. We will put a link in the description as well. This is really taped up good, so we're going to kind of get this out here, and we're going to see how these fit. Again, it's a top and a bottom, only 20 bucks a piece. Can you believe that? And we're going to see how they fit on here. All right, so there's what it looks like, guys. Let's take a look at this guy here. Hold it up so I can see it. There's the one side. Very cool. It looks like they do make some little cuts there for like the heater and the filter. That's pretty neat too. I mean, yeah, this is really amazing and professional. Flip it over. Let's look at the back of it. So it's the top and the bottom. They're exactly the same. We're going to leave this one in here because we're not going to need that right away. We're going to do the bottom first and let it cure. But that looks pretty sharp. Let's move this one out of the way and see if it fits, man. All right, guys, we pushed this on. Let me tell you, it is snug. I mean, it's really snug. Look at that. I mean, it just fits on there. Wowza. So what you do when you put a new frame on here, we're going to lift this back off. Go ahead and lift this back off here, kiddo. Basically what we do is, hold this up so you can see it, is you fill this with silicone, this area here, and then when you push it down, it ends up kind of smushing and holding it on. Okay, so you can see we're filling this channel just a little bit higher, so when we come down on there, it's gonna, you know, smush down on these sides. The other thing is when we flip this thing over, gravity's gonna pull that down. Now, you don't wanna take forever to do this because it's gonna start drying right away. So we're basically gonna shoot this in, probably gonna take 2 tubes on each side. The other thing, of course, is we're doing this in a well-ventilated area because this stuff's got some pretty strong fumes when it's curing, doesn't it, buddy?
Yes, it does.
It's pretty strong, so you wanna be out here. If we weren't, we'd probably be wearing masks. Yeah, you wanna get a good amount, just like that. You don't really need much more than that. You're just filling that channel there. You can see from a level standpoint, and then that's gonna drip down and stick to these sides and really get that to hold in there. Easy, we're gonna flip this over. We're gonna put it down nice and easy, right on the edges. Okay, and it's a little snug, so you gotta pull, get these corners on. It's kind of like putting on a tight bed sheet.
Yeah, it kind of smears, but not too much.
Okay, now we're gonna push those down. Push it. And you go around that way, I'm gonna go around this way. Again, we're just pushing this down, just like this, making sure everything is down all the way. And again, it doesn't really matter about the bottom. No one's gonna ever see that. But right here on the side, if anything were to leak out, you could obviously just cut it with a razor. Okay, for the most part, this came out pretty clean. There's a little excess here. And then as you move along, right here, where, you know, they did cut out some area for the pump, you could see where some of the excess came over. That's perfectly fine. We don't really need to trim this in any way because it is the bottom of the tank. But again, if something were to come out here, then you could trim that pretty easily. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this sit for a few days while we continue to work on the stand over there. We're gonna continue to just try to paint it. And this will only be like a second for you guys, but it's gonna be like 4 or 5 days for us. All right, so far the painting's coming along great. We got it two-tone, we got all the bottom, all the top.
Yeah, it looks real smooth and nice.
Everything's done. Look, even the bottom's painted. No more smell, no more nothing. There's the doors. We had most of this paint sitting around. We had a gray and a blue that we used for something. I think lawn chairs. We had an old black one there that we used to touch up the inside of the doors. These are 2 that we had that we did some old lamps with. It's like a brown stone. We're thinking about maybe doing the doors in this color just to give it like 2 tones. And then Jack picked this out like a sand, a Caribbean sand. maybe we'll do the body. Now, we bought 4 of them because we wanted them all to match. We wanted to make sure we got them, and the store, we got them at the drugstore, only had 4 of them. They were like $5-6 a can. But we can always return 1 or 2 if we don't open it. But we got 4 just in case. So that's coming along good. Now, as far as this stand over here, this is doing awesome. This is totally dry. It's been sitting for quite a few days. When you press down on this, you can see it's very spongy. It's hard. That's a good way to test it, is to push. If nothing oozes out or anything, then you know it's dry all the way through. So, but we got a little blue tape there, don't we?
Yes.
What we're going to do is we're going to put blue tape around this whole outside, because we're going to flip this whole entire tank over to do the top. And when we clean the top, see all this stuff all over the ground? We don't want all that crud falling down and getting into our new frame on our bottom. So we're going to tape that up and then flip it over. Okay, so this top is really on good. We tried hammering it with a 2x4. It's not budging. So we're going to have to cut it into pieces again, just like we did for the bottom. Jack is going to take a razor. He's going to get these guys off. These old temperatures. It has 2. Look at this one. This one is so bad. The cover's off of it, and it's just like melted on here. So old. Oh. Look at the layers of paint that are on here and stuff. Man, this is old. Okay, so got all that stuff off. Came out pretty good. We're gonna take a razor to this now, just like we did on the bottom. Go around the whole top. Probably gonna work on some of this salt while we're at it, just because, you know, we got the razor up here. Probably take much of that off while we're at it here too. Okay, so actually a lot of this salt is coming off really good with this razor blade. The only thing you wanna be careful when you start going by this, don't dig into the seal. You wanna come more like up, like this way, because you don't wanna end up cutting into that seal and messing it up. But look how this is coming off, man. Look at that, how that's coming off so good. So we're gonna end up actually getting a lot of this off before we even fill it with water. But when we fill it with water, we're gonna use like a steel wool. You gotta remember, steel will not scratch glass, and that'll end up really cleaning it up good. All right, you can see now why we put that tape on the bottom. What a mess. So honestly, this razor took off a whole bunch of this. I mean, this is actually starting to look like a fish tank again here, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like fish would be in there.
So we're gonna scrape this a little bit more down in here where I can reach, and then Jack's got the old shop vac. He's gonna clean all this stuff up around the outside of the glass, the inside of the glass, and then we're gonna put this top frame on here. All right, so we got the top on. Very difficult to do. It was like putting on a super tight bed sheet, wasn't it?
Yeah, you got to really just pull it on.
You gotta pull. Jack had those 2 corners. I had these 2 corners. You just kind of edge them on and you pull them down, push them down. We got it down all the way. This is the important part, is this right here, guys. This center brace, when you got a tall tank like this, that is what is holding that together. That's what was so busted and nasty with the old one, that this would have bowed. Look at the difference just with a razor and a shop vac already. We haven't even touched this thing with water yet.
It looks polished.
Looks amazing. So yeah, we get this thing cleaned up. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a little scratched. Maybe it won't. We'll see. But we're going to take this back off, fill it full of silicone, pop it back on. All right, guys. So we got the top on there, all siliconed up, smashed it down. We're going to let that dry for a good 4 to 5 days. And then, you know, we'll get this tape off the bottom and all that. We're going to fill it up with water. We're going to let that sit for a good 4 or 5 days. These guys are coming along while that is drying. And while that's sitting, we're going to finish this stand. These doors came out pretty awesome. We're pretty impressed with how this kind of dark brown stone looks. It's got speckles of black and stuff in it. Those are going to be the doors that are going to go over here in the front. And then the rest of this is going to be painted more of a lighter sandstone. And pretty thrilled on how it's coming out. All right, guys, that's pretty much going to conclude this video. Now it's just a waiting game. We got to wait 4 or 5 days for this silicone to dry really good. We're gonna fill it with water, see whether or not it leaks. That's gonna take another week. So it's gonna be a good week or 2 before we can really decide what we're doing with the tank. In the meantime, while we're waiting for all that to happen, we're gonna finish this stand.
Yeah, we spray painted it a little bit and it looks pretty good.
It's pretty cool. We're gonna finish painting it. We're gonna let that all dry. We're gonna get it in the house, get it positioned, start some of the wiring and stuff like that. And then when this guy's done, he'll come in and we'll see where it goes from there. The only way you're gonna see the rest of this project, guys, is how?
is if you subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. That way you'll be notified when we do another video.
That's right. This is probably going to be like a 3-part series. We have a pretty complex, little design we're doing here. Like always, going to do an under gravel filter, lights underneath, all kind of cool things. So this is a start to finish total rebuild, total reconstruction of this old tank. So stay tuned, guys. We'll see you next time. Have an awesome day.
Bye-bye.